Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. Amma ba'd. Fa'a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. We all have gathered here today for a very important and meaningful session to know about contribution of Muslims to medical field. It is very important and it will help us gain insight on how to aid the ummah and to understand our role in society. For this, I would like to invite our honored guest, Mr. Lateef Atear. Sir has delivered more than 150 lectures on Muslim contributions to science across the globe, including reputed universities such as Aligarh Muslim University, Jamia Hamdard University, Jamia Millia Islamia University, Darul Huda Islamic University, IDB Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, and University of Sharjah. He has conceptualized and organized Golden Age exhibition in more than 12 cities across India, showcasing the contributions of Muslim scientists towards different fields such as astronomy, medicine, chemistry, physics, and mathematics. Sir has conducted a 3-day international conference on revisiting Abul Qasim al-Zahrawi's legacy in medicine and surgery at India Islamic Center, New Delhi. Now, Sir will provide us with a meaningful and important session. Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am audible? Jamil bhai?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I think this is a very important session for a Muslim doctor to know about the Muslims' contribution to the field of medical science. Why this is an important topic? I don't come from a medical background. Please forgive me that maybe some of the terminologies and other things I may not be able to pronounce correctly, but definitely I will try to take you to a journey where Muslims have contributed in the field of medical science. Why it is important to know about history. History of medicine is part of our subject, but people take it as a very lighter subject, and to pass out the subject, we concentrate on the topics and work it out and do it and complete that subject as a passing subject in our medical science. But for me, believe me, it has given a lot of encouragement and it has given me a lot of confidence when I have gone through these types of research work. And the purpose I will be sharing with you why I started doing this and what is the intent behind this activity. Hoping that you will going to enjoy this session. Please, we will be starting in this session at 9:15 and we will be closing by 10. I want half an hour for a question and answer session because it's very important to discuss this topic in deep. Whatever knowledge what I have, definitely I would like to share. Maybe I will try to answer all the questions. Please openly criticize, ask, and read this subject because it's very important, because as a medical science student, you will be coming through a lot of doctors, those who have contributed in the field of medical science, the Western names, Greek names, but you are not going to come through some of the Muslim names. Maybe the names are westernized and you will be able to go through that words, but you are not going to. Why it is important? The legacy is important because legacy give you the real heroes. You can, as a good doctor, if you want to be a practicing good physician or you want to be a good surgeon, you should have some of the ex role models. Now, what are the role models? We have it. We can have some Westerners role model as a surgeon, but if you have a role model who were practicing Muslim doctors, so you will be able to have their ethical values in it. What is the difference between a medical science which is practicing today and what ethical value can you bring as a Muslim doctor into the society and into the medical field? I will taking you through the journey of Muslims' contribution towards science. This is what we talk about it. I think I am able, everybody is able to see my screen. Can anybody respond?
No, sir.
You are not able to see my screen? Just 1 second. That's right.
Yes, sir. Now we can see.
Yeah, very good, very good. So we will be going through this journey, discover golden age of Muslim civilization. It's an exhibition of Muslim contribution towards science in the Middle Ages that is known as Thousand Years of Glory. We are talking about the Muslim contribution from 7th century to 16th century. As you know, Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when he came to this world and Islam has spread wide. So Muslims have started contributing in the other fields also, not only the Islamic field, but also in other fields. Definitely, there were people, they were contributing in different forms before Islam also. So we will be going through this journey. We will be focusing from 7th to 16th century. And I request everybody to note down some of the points. I will be sharing this presentation with you. My humble request to some of the doctors, those who are present here, please go and have this presentation in your colleges, or schools, or within your friend circle to showcase the glory of Muslims' contribution in the field of medical science. Now, I will be only focusing because most of your students are medical science. Generally, my presentation is on the Muslims' contribution in the field of astronomy, chemistry, botany, zoology, physiology, medical science, sociology, civilization developments, all those I talk about it. But right now I am restricted to the medical science because most of you are doctors and I want you to share the contributions related to medical science only. I runs an organization called ILM Foundation. Under it, I do all these activities. It's a registered society where I do a lot of exhibitions and do a lot of lecturing on the Muslims' contribution towards science as well as the women's contribution towards science, technology, and other things. This is an exhibition where we talk about all the subjects I have already described, so I don't have to go through it. We will be focusing on medical science. Now, as a medical science students, you have right now, you can understand this slide very well that we have historic medicine that is 8000 BC. We talk about the medicine because human has born Adam alayhi salam and Hawa has born now. What is medical science? Medical science start with hygiene, health and hygiene. Hygiene was the important role. So people started practicing. They may not known as a medical term or a medicine, but they used to practice all these things. And it has been documented. And then they start keeping practicing, and then it has been documented in this. Then we have ancient Chinese medicine. It is part of that. Indian medicine, we talk about lot of Indian contribution in the field of medical science. You know, India is the oldest civilization, what we have it, and there is a lot of history about it. So Nalanda University in Bihar is one of the great university in India where lot of people came together to learn all types of knowledge from astronomy to medicine. Then Babylonian medicine, Greek, Roman, already you know Greek, you take the oath and Greek, Romans. Then we will be talking about the Middle Ages, Islamic medicine, Renaissance, 18th and 19th century, 20 and 21st century. Last nearly about from Renaissance to 18, 19, 20, 21st century, you may be able to listen the doctors or the people, those who have contributed in the field of medical science because these are part of your textbook when you talk about anything related to surgery, anything related to anesthesia and related to blood circulation, related to eye, you are able to get those names into your textbook because these have been written by the Westerners. So they have put those names into that. These are the contributed for this subject, what you are studying today. So we will be focusing more on Middle Ages and Islamic medicine. I will be talking about those period only. That is known as from 7th century to 14th century. First great doctor is known as Ibn Sina. I don't know how many of you heard the word Avicenna. Anybody has heard the word Avicenna as a medical doctor? All doctors know about Ibn Sina. Ibn Sina Western name is Avicenna. Avicenna generally comes into the textbooks as a Western name, but we generally think that he is a Western doctor. Not, he is not a Western doctor. He is a Muslim doctor, and his original name is Ibn Sina. The Westerners has changed their names into the Western form so that you cannot able to correlate with those names. Like we talk about the algebra. Algebra is an, you think that it is an uh, English word, but algebra come from the root word known as Kitabul Muqabla fil Hisab al-Jabr, the mathematics book written by Al-Khawarizmi. So algebra is part of our curriculum, but we don't think that it's a Muslim contribution. So like that, it's Ibn Sina also contributed in the field of medicine. He was a Hafiz Quran, and he was a physician, Islamic philosopher, astronomer, chemist, mathematician, poet. Right now, the education system, what we have, if I am a good doctor, I cannot become an astronomer. If I am a good astronomer, I cannot become a doctor, because right now the education system is more focused on the creating the people into white collar or a white collar colonial people, where they can only focus on one field and they cannot go to the other field. But during the Islamic civilization, they were masters in different fields. As if you have an interest in different fields and you start reading some of the books and you start working on that, you start contribution. But our education system is rigid and does not allow to think out of the box, and only we are focused on our own subjects. So today also we will be focusing only on the Muslims contribution in the field of medical science. Now, Ibn Sina has written a treatise of 450, in which 240 has been survived. A wide range of books he has written. And these are some of the drawings. Alhamdulillah, by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I have 150, more than 150 images, what you are seeing the right side, original images of those manuscripts of Muslims, doctors, those who have written in those period in different museums of the world. So I have the master copy of those images with me by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and 150 images, high quality images of those manuscripts I have it with me, which are available in different museums in worldwide. In particular, 150 has survived the books what he has written, because in those period, the books where the paper was so not easily available, or they may have written on some of the other forms, and it has not survived much. But the most focus was 150 has survived, and people started doing those research into 150 treatise of Ibn Sina. 40 are focused on medicine, but the foremost work, the Book of Healing and the Canon of Medicine. The Canon of Medicine is the Western name of the book written by his Ibn Sina. The original name of the Canon of Medicine, Khanun fi Tib, is the name, and it was a medical science textbook till 19th century. This is one of the book in the medical history which was used by the Westerners as a medical science textbook for 500 years. Till today, no other book in the medical science and the history has been used as a medical science other than the Canon of Medicine, that is known as the Hanun fi Tib. So it's around the people have started translating those into the Lewins translated in later in 1650s. So it talks about the medical science in great detail, because he was a practicing doctor. So he written his medical textbook by practicing medicine. Generally, we write textbooks by not practicing medicine, by our experiences and by our things working out it. But most of the doctors, those who write in last stages, they start writing those textbooks with their experiences, but they have around 15, 20, 30 years of experience. But the Ibn Sina Khanun fi Tib Book was written when he was practicing, and everything has been penned down when he was checking every patient. As a medical doctor, you know that you prescribe some of the medicine to the patient, but you don't keep the record of it. But the beauty of Muslim civilization, in those periods, they used to keep each and every record of a patient. That means he was a family physician who knows each and everything about the patient, the history. So this is the way the canon of medicine has been written in those periods. He has written some of the drugs should be free from all the things and other qualities, because it was an important role. I will be talking about the pharmacology and the hospitals, as well as the pharmacists were practicing in those period, and what are the punishment they were giving in those period, because adulteration of drug was a big crime. And right now the pharmacy certificate what you get has been designed by the Muslim, because in the 8th century they were the people those said that you cannot practice medicine, or you cannot practice put a uh, like medical hall, because you don't have a degree or a certificate. So certificate has been given by the Muslim doctors so that you can have a medical hall in those period. Right now, the Canon of Medicine have English 5 volumes. Those who are interested, it has been translated in English. And the Canon of Medicine Encyclopedia Britannica says that the Canon is the single most famous book in the history of medicine in East and West. The canon has remained the medical Bible for longer time than any other book. So Dr. William Osler has said that this is known as medical Bible. Why they have given the word of a Bible? Try to understand that uska har lafz sacha tha. मेडिकल की हर किताब का उसका लिखना, द कैनन ऑफ मेडिसिन, द वर्ड व्हाट ही हैज रिटन एंड द prescribed medicine, people in those period in 16th, 17th, 18th century, those doctors which are right now in your textbook, those are those, if you go back to their teachers and the books they have studies, the one book surely will be the canon of medicine. So uh, Michelangelo said that better to mistake and follow Avicenna than correctly following others. That means if you mistake by mistake also, if you are following Avicenna, that is Ibn Sina, you are following right manner. So this is the Westerners, those who are talking about the canon of medicine. Try to understand that right now, as a Muslim, we have very less knowledge about the Muslim contribution of medical science in the medical world. But Westerners have done a lot of research, and the data what I have collected from the Westerners only, not from the Islamic civilizations or Islamic, because we are busy in building the buildings, purchasing the cars and houses. So our investment is more on our lifestyle than preserving our history. So the history has been preserved by the Westerners. The another name is Al-Zahrawi. His name is Abulcasis. He is one of the great surgery. So he has written more than uh, 330 volumes on surgery. Al-Tasrif is one of the great book who what he has written, and he had described all the surgical procedures in Al-Tasrif. So surgeon, what you are practicing today, you are following Al-Zahrawi's practice 1,000 years before. So the instrument left side, what you are seeing, that he was the first man to describe about the surgical instruments, and it has to be used in the medical science. So these are the original images of his book from Al Tasrif. The 30 volume, the last volume of Al Tasrif is describe about the surgical instruments, and 200 surgical instruments has been designed by Al-Zahrawi for cutting off the bones, removing the dead fetus from the mother womb. All these instruments today you are using it, but it has been described. It is in better form. The what we are using it today, we are not using these types of saws, but in those period, try to understand 1,000 years before, if you are talking about the 10th century and thinking of those instruments, it was one of the great invention in those period. So the doctors, those who practice surgery, they are practicing, they are using some of the surgical instrument today in the operation theater that has been designed by Al-Zahrawi. Now, surgery is integral part of any scientific medicine. As you know, it's one of the best subjects in medical science. And right now, you talk about surgery not only into the bone surgery. You talk about the kidney. You talk about anything. You talk about eye, brain, any body part. You have to do some of the other surgeries. So surgery is part of internal medicine, and it's one of the great medicine. And the contributions goes to Al-Zahrawi. So Al-Zahrawi has been one of the great surgeons. I am not going through some of the matter what is present here. Just I am talking from my own knowledge. So maybe you can go through the website, or you can talk about, you can get a lot of information. I already said that I am going to share all this presentation with you. So that's the thing. He talks about different types of procedure. He talks about shoulder dislocation in 1,000 years. He has developed a bench for shoulder dislocation, which still we have a form, and it has been preserved. That bench has been for the about his bench he has described in his book, and replica of that bench I have made it, and some of the museums in the world has also medical science museums have put those methods, benches, what Al-Zahrawi used to treat about dislocation of shoulders and bones. So we generally known as coaches method, but uh, before the coaches, he the 1,000 years before he started introducing these types of practice, and it is one of the great practice of medical science with sound knowledge of anatomy. If you don't have a sound knowledge of anatomy, it's very difficult to talk about the bones and its working conditions and how you are going to fix those bones. He was first surgeon to use cotton in surgical dressing. That's one of the great achievement of his. So he was using those things. These are the surgical instruments. I started making some of the replicas of surgical instruments. I made some of the replicas for our museum, for our exhibition also. But how I got this idea is that Dr. Hussein Nagamia, who is one of the great surgeon in USA, he runs a Nagamia Institute of Islamic Medicine in Chicago. So he has his whole income in Chicago as a medical practitioner. He is a cardiologist. He has dedicated and he has built a museum for contributing Al-Zahrawi, where I have supplied these surgical instruments, and it is placed in the Chicago Museum. These are the replicas, what you are able to see the images. We started making those replicas to showcase for young generation to understand how these surgical instruments were used and what was the method. So you are able to correlate and see that tongue processor, what we have is here. We are right now using similar types of instruments, the scissors, the stitches. So these are some of the things which has been invented by Al-Zahrawi. Ibn Zur is one of the great physician. He is known for his use of pathological condition. He was one of the great physician and child specialists. Like we talk about the pediatric, his main contribution is in the pediatrics, and he was first to use parasites as healing of the cure of any diseases or any wound. So he was the first to use those. He has written some of the great books where he talks about the important of diet in medical science is very important. He talks about the using of different types of foods item and healthy habits and eating habits, where you can maintain your body and soul, and you can be healthy, where you can able to balance your health very well with different types of diets. So last book what he talks about, Kitabul Aghritiya, was the food stuff, where he described different types of foods and drugs can be used. He also talks about lot of treatments, innovations he have done in many diseases, where he were able to urinary cancers. He talk about the cell carcinoma and different types of things in the surgery. He was using general surgeries. He was masters in general surgery. He used to do lot of experiments on the go, try to understand. Muslim physicians were mastery on the animals more than the human being. As you know, They used to practice most of their medicines on different types of animals than the human being. I will be talking about when I come to the Ibn Nafis contribution in medical science. Books were translated in Latin and Hebrew. This was medical science. Then in 16th, 17th century, where Europe were developing, and medical Oxford University, different types of universities were establishing, and medical schools were establishing in the Western world. So these were the textbooks in those period which were translated in Latin, Hebrew, as well as in English. He was to first describe about the scabies and itchmites, which were not known previously differently. And he is known as parasitologist. He was using the lot of parasites for curing of the wounds. The great another one of the physician we will be talking about, Ibn Nafis. Ibn Nafis, one of the great physician. Generally, we know about the William Harvey, who describe about the blood circulation diagram. But before William Harvey, Ibn Nafis was the first man. 400 years before William Harvey, William Harvey described about the blood circulation diagrams in 16th century. But 12th century, Ibn Nafis was the first man who described about the blood circulation. And believe me, Ibn Nafis studied blood circulation diagram, not killing the patient. When William Harvey became a medical doctor, he had the medical science. So whenever he want to study the anatomy of a human being, so he was given the prisoner and he used to kill that prisoner, and he studied the medical science, killing lot of prisoners. More than 300 prisoners he have killed to understand the anatomy of a human being. By Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these were the physician and Muslim physician. They did not kill anybody. As you know, it's haram to kill anybody on the earth. So they learn medical science, understanding the different types of animals and their culture, their anatomy, and they started describing the anatomy of human being, how it is going to work. Right now, we have a lot of technologies, but try to understand in the 12th century how they will use. So, Shamila fil Tib, it's written in 300 volumes. Volume is a big number. If you talk about a single book, it contained about 500 to 700 pages. Try to understand that he has written an encyclopedia that consists of 300 volumes. Every book was nearly about 200 to 250 pages in those period of time. And 300 volumes mean what will be the number of pages. Try to understand that how a person describe about the blood circulation and talk about anatomy of the body and everything. So that means the knowledge what we have, writing 2 pages in a medical science or any field, it is very difficult for me to write about myself for 100 words or 500 words. I cannot write about myself, describing myself, where I have lived for around 47 years. If you ask me, can you describe in 500 words, I can finish off with 150 words and say that bas itna hi likh sakta hu, isse zyada to nahi ho sakta. But try to understand, because that's the beauty of medical science. When you start practicing medical science and you pen down everything what you are practicing and what your observation, that makes you to a great doctor. Not just studying the textbook and passing off with higher number of marks is not going to make you a great doctor. Great doctor is a doctor who observe the patient very critically, seeing his behavior coming to when the patient is entering your room. So that's the way your observation skills has to be high as a doctor. Then only you can become a great doctor. So he has written a lot of books, coronary arteries and feeding of cardiac muscles. He talks about, and he has donated his library, the books to a library in Mansour Hospital in Cairo, where he also served as a principal for a medical college. Mansuria Hospital was built in those period, and he has served as a principal in the Cairo. He correctly described about the lungs, bronchus, and interaction between the human body, vessels, air, and blood. So this is the way he described about it. Generally, we don't talk about it because I come from the science background. If you want to a simple method, if you are talking about lungs, एक बकरे के lungs लग जाके if you blow from the जो blow करके भी बता सकते, expansion and contraction is not a big sign. So खाली एक बकरे के lungs लग जाके, but we talk about lot of 3D effects, ये effect falana, we draw diagrams and talk about it. So it's very simple to talk about a lungs. You take the lungs of a goat and you blow air in the mouth of that pipe, and you can start able to see the expansion of the lungs and contraction of the lungs. It's a great example. If you want to talk about the kidney, हम लोग गुर्दे का सालन खाते, बकरे के दो किडनी लग जाके उसको डिसेक्शन करके नहीं देखते कि why what the kidney is all about. It's a simple to understand kidney than understanding it. So that's the practicing medicine. That's known as practicing medicine. We draw a lot of good diagram about the kidney, उसको coloring करते, उसको labeling करते. We do lot of the stuff do on the textbook, on a paper, or on a chalkboard, or a blackboard, or a professor draw a lot of things. Showing a simple kidney can be done by taking a goat kidney and start dissection those kidney and identifying the parts. Yeah, it's as simple as that. So we don't do it. That is the difference between a practicing medicine and studying a medicine with textbooks. So please try to incorporate these things in your medical science, and you can become a great doctor like Ibn Sina al-Razi. So then comes Ibn Zakaria al-Razi. He is one of the great physician of all times. He is one of the great contributor of medical science. He has written a book called Al-Hawi, which has been translated in India. In 18th century, it has been translated in India from Arabic to Urdu, and it has been done in Hyderabad, in Hyderabad. So for 40 volumes has been translated, and it was a medical science textbook, Al-Hawi, in Unani medicine. But still, it is not the textbook of Unani medicine. Al-Hawi was the textbook of a medicine in Oxford in 16th and 17th century. He also described about the different types of surgical instruments that were using in the medical science. They were basically alchemists, they were physicians, they were mathematicians, they were botanists, because a medical doctor, as you know, you have to have all these skills as to become a great doctor. Try to understand what are the chemical composition in the medicine. Generally, we describe about the B pharmacy has to do. No. As a medical doctor, you should know what is right, what are the combinations, what are the permutations you put into a capsule, and how you are going to work it out with those into the body, and what is the action is going to take within your body. So that makes you a great doctor. These are some of the books written by him, but I prescribe about the Kitabul al-Mansuri and Havi are one of the great textbook of his medical science. So he was the first to describe between the smallpox and chicken. People used to think in those period that smallpox and chicken pox are same, but he differentiated that no, smallpox is a different disease and chicken pox is a different disease. He was using opium as anesthesia. As you know, there were a lot of wars going in those period of time. Though people used to cut their hands and legs, but they were not using any anesthesia method. But Muslims have started using anesthesia in those period and using opium. They were soaking into the sponge and giving on into the mouth. Oral anesthesias were given to the people. So neurosurgery, he was a pioneer in neurosurgery in those period, and ophthalmology. He was the first author to write a book on pediatric, large medical encyclopedia in those period of time. He only described about the periodics, the usage of medicine, the behavior of a child, and all this has been described in his pediatric books. He described about the inorganic, organic chemistry, the distinguish between inorganic and organic chemistry. 16th century, we understand what is organic chemistry and what is inorganic chemistry. But he was the first to describe about those things that these are two different types of chemistry. Sulfuric acid, he was the first to introduce. Alcohol, any word which come with al is invented by Muslim. Admiral, which has al in form, you have to think as a Muslim doctor or a Muslim person that it has been invented by the Muslim. Alchemy, chemistry come from the root word alchemia. Alchemia is from the Muslims who have invented the distillation, crystallization. His name is Jabir ibn Hayyan. So any word, if you look, al come from before any word that is invented by the Muslims, and he has developed a lot of instruments in those period of time. He was a great influencer in those periods, 16th and 17th century. Picture of Al-Razi, standard glasses, pristine university, Chapel, USA. This is the university where they have painted a glass of Al-Razi. But we have a lot of Muslim hospitals in India, as well as Muslim management teaching hospitals, but we don't have a single image of a Muslim scientist, because we are so scared about it, talking about to the people, saying that नहीं नहीं मत लगाओ भाई, मुस्लिम हॉस्पिटल है तो अपन मुसलमानों के नाम नहीं लगाना चाहना. But Westerners proudly put those names, and they talk about, because they talk about the important of, try to understand, it's not about the Muslim or a Westerner or a Hindu. They talk about the contribution of their subject. That's more important. It's not about the contribution of the individual or a religion. We are talking about Al-Zahrawi contribution in medical science. We are not talking about Al-Zahrawi contribution in Islamic studies. So try to understand that subject. So Westerners are the best. They put the people in the right position, because they understand that how is important to talk about these contributions. So Google also celebrated 1147. As you know, everybody do the Google search, and doodlies are images which are going to change now and then. Every day you see a new image of the Google. So they talk about the people, and they talk about some of the events. They may talk about the space, anything they talk about, and they keep on changing the doodly images of Google every day. So this was done for the Ibn Razi contribution to the medical science, and remembering his legacy about his contribution. Left side, you can see the anatomy of the body by Muslim doctors. You are able to see how beautifully they have described about it. And these are the original images of those textbooks written in those period of time. I have already said that I have some of the great images of all the world museums where the original manuscripts have been kept. So these are the images from those manuscripts. So Al-Razi was one of the great physician of Islamic and medieval surgeon. World Health Organization recognized Al-Razi work on smallpox and measles. So World Health WHO also recognized his contribution on smallpox and measles. And 1930, the 1,000 years of Al-Razi was celebrated in Paris, in France, in a great manner. Remembering the Al-Razi of medical science, the France has celebrated in 1930. Then another beautiful person who is known as Ibn al-Haytham. His Western name is Al-Haytham. We know his name because it is written in our 7th class textbook. If you look at the 7th and 8th class textbook, as you remember, there is one name is Camera Obscura. The inventor of Camera Obscura is known as Al-Haytham. Al-Haytham was a person who has invented the camera obscura. The camera what we are using today has been the great invention of the person, right? What you are able to see is known as Ibn al-Haytham. His Western name is Al-Haytham. His main contribution was describing the anatomy of the eye without using a microscope. You know, microscope has been invented in 18th century, but Ibn Haytham has described the anatomy of the eye in in a great detail. Kitabul al-Manadir. Manadir is basically talk about the eye. So he has written these 2 books, great books. I have one of the books in English translation with me. One of this book is available with me. So by the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, great, I start collecting, I started keeping those books with me. And by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because of my passion, people have donated some of the great books to me to be a part of my collections. So definitely any one of the day we can have see all those books which are available with me. I have the 30th volume of Al Tasrif, which are available only, that is written in Arabic as well as English. In 1975, it has been translated. World has only 5 copies of Al Tasrif 30th volume. I have one of the copies with me right now in my collections. So camera obscura is first. He carried out the first experimental methodology for the description of light into constant color. He talked about Galileo. We talked about the prism and multi white light contains multiple color. But Ibn al-Haytham was the first man to describe about the light, shadow, eclipse, rainbow. So he talks about the physics related to the eye, and he also talks about the medicine, medical related to eye. So try to understand. He correlated the physics, physiology of the eye, as well as physics in it, how we are going to see the objects. If you talk about the camera, the eye, reflection, refraction, how it's going to work. So he talks about all those physical properties and the physics about the eye, as well as the medical science. Mm, People in 2015, UNESCO has formed a committee in 2014, and UNESCO said that what is the great invention in the mankind, what was the great invention? Aeroplane was the great invention, car was the invention. So there were a lot of inventions which have, so they have put down more than 1,000 inventions onto the paper, and great thinkers have to think and sat down, and they said that let us pen down every invention has been done by the mankind. And when they put all those inventions in places, and they say इसमें से सबसे greatest invention क्या है? What was the great invention which has changed mankind? And then they realized that the great invention of mankind was light. Try to understand. Without light, आपके पास में आज मैं कंप्यूटर पे बात कर रहा हूँ, नहीं कर सकते. सर्जरी विदाउट लाइट नहीं कर सकते. गाड़ी विदाउट लाइट नहीं चल सकते. So everything you just pen down your 1,000 things what you are using today. Who has described great about the light. So they started pen downing all the scientists like Galileo, Newton, and who talks about the light, all the people. They said that the first person to describe about the light was Ibn al-Haytham. In 2015, UNESCO has celebrated about the contribution of Ibn al-Haytham. Try to understand. UNESCO is celebrating Ibn al-Haytham. How many Muslim countries, how many Muslim people, how many Muslim doctors, how many Muslim engineers know about Ibn al-Haytham? I did not come. There are a lot of less people who know about the name of Ibn al-Haytham. But UNESCO is celebrating about Ibn al-Haytham contribution, and we started celebrating in India. And I was one of the part of United Nations program, UNESCO program for celebrating International Year of Light. So we celebrated the golden age contribution Ibn al-Haytham. We conducted a quiz in schools and colleges describing about the contributions of Muslims, and the one was the great about Ibn al-Haytham. So partnering with UNESCO, we have around 50,000 students participated in this quiz competition. So this was one of the great, and still they celebrate the International Year of Light, because light is one of the great invention of mankind. So I have talked about around 5 to 6. You can go on talking about lot of Ibn al-Baytar, who has Ibn al-Batani, who has contributed. Al-Biruni has contributed in the field of medical science. Because I know that talking about all those will be great, but just a glimpse of Muslims' contribution in medical science was important. That's why I have picked 5 great Muslim scientists, those who have contributed in the field of medical science. We can talk about a lot of people and a lot of things. Now, my second presentation, we will be talking about the Muslim contribution in different field. But still here, I have chosen only 4 to 5 field. I can go in great details in different fields also. But because try to understand first time knowledge, we have to have some basic knowledge about the Muslims contribution. When somebody talks about that you have not contributed to the society, we can say that these are the pioneers, those who have have contributed. If you talk about medical science and chemistry or a physics, as a medical doctor, somebody questions and somebody says that no contribution has been done by Muslims in medical science, you can just raise your hand and say that no, sir, I can show you around 1 to 4 names that has contributed in medical science. Please correct yourself, try to understand that these are the contribution which has not been put in our textbooks, and these are the names I am talking about it. You just verify these are the right names or not, it's up to you, but these are the people those are. So anesthesia, they were using herbal drugs. The Muslim physicians have innovated the form of nasal anesthesia. I have talked about the sponges, they were saturated sponges they were using in those period for giving the physical anesthesia. Physicians were rapidly introducing the anesthesia. Alcohol were used as a medicine. They were not used as a for fun instrument, fun material that we have and wine bottles or something like that. But they were categorically using alcohol as a medicine. Pharmacology, Muslim physicians were also pharmacists because during those point, the pharmacy was not the different uh, subject for you study pharmacology, but right now we have different subject. Pharmacist is a different subject, but medical doctor as a pharmacology they was a part of, and they were good pharmacologists because they used to understand the nature very well, and they used to understand the plants very well. They used to understand the abstracts of the plant very well, and they were able to use those as a medicine in those period of time. So they were chemists, they were pharmacologists, they were doctors, and they were also astronomers and other things. So Muslim contribution to the surgery, the great contribution, I have said that catgut, using of catgut was done by Al-Zahrawi first time. Right now we use that catgut in our surgeries. So Muslims were using sutures for animal intestines. They were using in those period. Al-Zahrawi was master in that. They were able to control the bleeding during the surgery. That was still today is the basic point of any surgeon, that how to control the bleeding once you are performing your surgeries on the table. So this has been done very well by the Muslim doctors in those period of times, like Ibn Sina. Al-Zahrawi also contributed a lot of Ibn Sina talks about the bone fractures and how you can fix those bone fractures in those period of time in great detail. In design form, he has written in the books of the canon of medicine. Al-Zahrawi was master to use of plaster of Paris. Right now we use plaster of Paris. He was pad spints. He was using those plans. Pad spints we use because transferring of any accident case from the or roadside to the hospital, we don't have directly, surgeries cannot be performed. So you don't have to damage the bone which is already fractured. So you use the sprints. So that method has been invented by Al-Zahrawi, and he was using those methods in those period of time. Muslim contribution in hospitals, try to understand Muslims were better to establish the hospitals. Patient's record was very important in those period of time. We don't right now doctors don't have patient's record. Computerization records now it has been started, but otherwise if you practice medicine or you have a clinic or you see a lot of patients, you don't keep any record of your patients. The patients come with his own record, then you recognize that this patient, okay, I have described or I have prescribed this XYZ medicine. But try to understand in those period of time, the basic requirement was the doctor used to keep the record of each and every patient. He used to write down the names and everything. The prescription was not given to the patient, but it was kept with the doctor. And when the patient comes next time, they used to search those records, and they used to get all the details of the patient. Even the family history of the patients were noted down in those records. So teaching hospital was part of medical science in those periods. Surgical instruments I have talked, blood circulation, pulmonary arteries, bone fracture, anatomy of the eye I have already talked. Vaccination system has been invented by Al-Razi. What we give vaccination to the children. The first uses of vaccination procedure has been invented by Al-Razi. pharmacology and drugs, medical journals and encyclopedia. As you see, those people have written 300 volumes, 200 volume, 100 volume, 30 volumes. That was the encyclopedia of medical journals they used to write in those period of times. And every medical schools have those libraries. Even in the 12th and 13th century, Al-Razi, when he want to establish any hospital in the area, what he was to do is that he was to take a meat and he was to hang that meat for 1 week in that area. Then he used to go every day and check that meat. What is the contamination? The meat got rotten very fast, very slow. So he was able to understand. And once the meat used to survive for 7 days without contamination, when bacteria and other the microorganisms have not affected the meat, he used to say that build hospital here because there is less contamination and the patients are going to survive. This is the method of establishing a Muslim hospital in those period of time. So that's the way method they used to select the place for the hospital, building of the hospital, where contamination, air is pure, and there are a lot of not other side infections, bacteria and other infections were there. So those areas used to select and hanging a meat in those areas, and they used to identify the place where the hospital can be built. So that was the procedure to building of those hospitals. Contribution to the surgery, I have talked about the surgery, master controlling of bleeding and invention surgical instruments. By a lot of books he has done it. Sorry, why it is getting repeated? Okay, I don't know. Maybe, sorry, those 2 slides, I think it has been copied and pasted. Or it got repeated. Sorry for that. Now I will come to the third section of it, what is taught and what should be taught. This is very important. I can give on keeping this what is taught, what should be taught in more than 150. What is taught? William Harvey during 17th century give an idea of about the blood circulation. He was the first to correctly describe functioning of the heart, arteries, veins. This is in our textbook. Harvey was the first to determine by the blood pump throughout the body, vein, heart, venous, and walls. Therefore, he is regarded as the founder of human physiology. What should be taught in our textbooks or our in classroom is 10th century Muslim scientist Dr. Al-Razi wrote a deep treatise on the Vernier system, accurate describing around the function of veins and their walls. Ibn Nafis, Ibn Khuld provided the full documentation about how the blood circulated, correctly describing the physiology of the heart and the functioning of the wall 300 years before the Harvey. William Harvey was graduated of Italy famous Pudar University at the time when the majority of curriculum was based upon the Ibn Sina Al-Razi textbook. So try to understand, we are talking about the William Harvey. Where was the textbook? Where from he got the knowledge? He got the knowledge of all the books of Ibn Sina Al-Razi. So his teachers and his books were Muslims. Now, what is taught? The first pharmacopoeia, the book of medicine, was published by the German scholar 1950. According to the World Book Encyclopedia, the science of pharmacology was begun in 19th century. Offshooted chemistry due to analyzing of crude plant material. Chemists also isolating the active ingredients from the plants, realizing their medical null values. According to the eminent scholar Arab history, Philips Hitti, he has written a book called Arab History. In that book, he had described about the Muslims, not the Greek or European, wrote the first modern pharmacopoeia. The science of pharmacology was originated by the Muslim physician during the 9th century. They developed it into the high refined medical textbook for pharmacists thousands years before we talk about, which is 1542. So this is present in your textbook or you encyclopedia and other things, but right now what you has to be taught to you is this is. So we can talk about lot of things. Italian Govini, Margoni is regarded the father of pathology because he has the first to correct describe about the nature of disease. But Muslim surgeons were the first pathologists. They first realized the nature of disease and describe varieties of the disease to the modern details. Ibn Zur correctly described in the nature of tuberculosis and other methods. So pure alcohol usage through distillation was first produced by Enaro de Vinova, a Spanish alchemist in 13th century. But numerous Muslim physicians already using alcohol distillation in 10th century, manufacture in large scale in the first distillation devices that we use in chemistry. They use alcohol as a solvent and antiseptic. I have talked about the contribution to the chemistry is Jabir ibn Hayyan. He was known as first alchemist. He described about the distillation of all the procedures, and he was first to describe all the distillation procedures. So what is thought the first surgery performed under anesthesia conducted by C.V. Long, an American in 1845. This is part of your textbook. What should be taught 600 years prior to Long? Spanish scientist Al-Zarabi, Ibn Zur, among other Muslim surgeons, performed hundreds of surgeries under anesthesia, use of narcotic soap sponge, and was also placed over the face in the face of the patient. The use of opium in the 16th century, we were the first to use opium around 12th century, 400. What is taught? William Harvey, that I think this is also repeated slide. So these are some of the things I can keep on putting hundreds of what is taught, what should be taught, what is taught, what should be taught in medical science, in pharmacology, in cardiology, in anesthesia, in nephrology. You can talk about the brain surgeries. You can talk all these contributions are already available. If you are interested, I want some of the students to be take this subject, try to understand this subject very well, because you can do justice to this subject. I am just basically a layman to this subject, but because of my passion, I am associated. Maybe you can describe more and good using the medical terminologies. And there are a lot of doctors I am talking about. There are a lot of, we have one doctor in India, that is Dr. Abdul Hai, who is known as the master in Al-Zarabi. He has Master Al-Zarabi contribution in medical science. He is a great surgeon in Bihar, but he is one of the great author of Al-Zarabi, and he's because of his hero as Al-Zarabi, so he has done a lot of research on that subject, and right now he is master. Dr. Hussein Naga. There are around 300 doctors where I am part of. International Institute of Islamic Medicine is one of the organization in America. Imana is one of the International Institute of Muslim Doctors in America. There is one of the great organization. More than 300 doctors are registered there, and they even talk about all those topics, because if they are a cardiologist, they talk about the Muslim cardiologists and their contributions. So being a doctor and talking about the cardiology will make a lot of difference than a layman talking about the contributions of Muslims. This is one of the great book which has been compiled as a Muslim doctor, or you should purchase this book. You should be part of your library. Medicine and Healthcare by Muslim Civilization, Contribution 1001 Invention. Why we are talking about 1001? Generally क्या होता है, 1001 अरेबियन नाइट्स के लिए मशहूर है. अरेबियन नाइट्स में जिसमें शराब पानी आप वो you know about the 1001 nights. So that's why to counter that 1001 Muslim images को counter करने के लिए they have put it 1001 inventions, 1001 medical health. So we are compiling those 1001. I am part of this great innovation and center where research papers are published in those articles on these topics, and there are a lot of doctors, there are a lot of physicians worldwide write articles doing a lot of research in those subjects. So there are a lot of papers, research papers are available. If you are interested, you can go through those websites. I have put it some of the references at the last of my slide. Then what is our action plan? Action plan is that अच्छा है, बहुत अच्छा बोले सर, बहुत अच्छा दिखा, बहुत खुशी हुई, आप अच्छा बताए, आज तक हमारे को नहीं मालूम था. That's good enough. But what is the takeaway? The takeaway is that you should, some of you, to take up these lectures at your school, colleges, and universities and public forum. I keep on taking up it, but I am not only the one person has to do this job. It's everybody responsibilities. I can train somebody what the little knowledge I have it. I can train somebody to take up these subjects, and I can help you in doing your research work on these subjects also. So where you can publish your articles in American journals and other things. So a lot of Muslim doctors have formed some associations, and they you can put your papers in those publications also. Plan exhibition in school, colleges, and different education events. If you are doing any event, we can have an exhibition on this Muslim contribution. We are creating some of the museums in Muslims managed schools. So this is the right side, what you see the image at Creekside International School, Adanu School. So we are encouraging the Muslims schools where you can have these types of exhibition charts. So if you provide one room, we will have those charts, instruments, and everything in those schools and colleges so that everybody can go through those things. Then fourth is conducting a quiz competition in your schools and colleges that also encourage the student to talk about or to learn about the Muslim contributions. Right side, you are able to see some of the girls. We train them into one characteristics, and we talk about those contributions of Muslims in the field of medical science and other subjects also. So this is should be your action plan takeaway for this presentation. Then I have another subject that's if you are interested in meantime, anytime we can have an 1 day session on the 1 hour session on this topic. Discover the great intellectual Muslim movements of all time. Generally, we talk about the Muslims' male contribution everywhere you go and you listen by the ulmas, you remember by your parent, teachers, and everybody talks about the Muslims' contribution of male contribution is ज़्यादा मिलता है लेकिन but try to understand there are a lot of female scholars who have contributed in the field of Islamic civilization. I have done research on this subject. I come up with the 50 great women scholar. If you talk about the teacher of Imam Shafi, what a lady here, her name is Nafisa bint Hassan. She is the great granddaughter of him. Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The Imam Shafi became Imam Shafi because of Nafisa bint Hassan was his teacher. If you talk about Malik ibn Marwan, the Abbasid Khalifa, his teacher was Ibn Darda. So there were a lot of movements, those who have contributed in this subject. So I am specialized in this subject also. So I am able to see some of the girls here. So you can go through this presentation also. We are making videos and other things. So this is one of the great subjects. As a woman, you should know the women's contribution. So you can counter that women's are, we don't in Islam, we don't encourage education. We don't encourage Muslims to go out and talk about. I am talking about the 7th and 8th century. I am talking about the Sahaba, Tabain, Taba Tabain, women's, those who have contributed in different. So enlarging these pictures to showcase your work, as well as you can counter those questions also where women's has been say that women has not contributed in the field of science. Now these are some of the references of Muslim heritage medicine. You can go through all this. Nagamia Institute of Medical Sciences is there. The British generals, those who publish the research papers. I don't have a medical doctor. I don't have to say where you have to search this information. It is available on the net. I have compiled those information and put a presentation. That's all. It's not my work or a research work. It's basically compilation of those all works, what is available, and putting in a presentation form and presenting to you. So with these few words, I would like to thank each and everyone for spending some time with me and understanding the Muslim contribution towards science. Thank you very much for each and everyone. I think already it's 2018, so we have another 12 minutes to 15 minutes. If you have any questions, last 1 hour I was just speaking. If you have any questions related to this, please put your question forward. What the little knowledge I have, I can answer those questions. Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Sir, in your presentation, I forgot about the person, but you mentioned that they have contributed to the field of both neurosurgery and ophthalmology. Similar claims were made regarding Sasruta that during his period also he performed some brain surgeries and all. In the modern time, we know how difficult it is to perform a brain surgery. Like we have to break open the skull, the cranium, the open brain surgeries and all. So for many of us, it is hard to believe that in that time the brain surgeries were used to perform, because it requires a lot of skill, anesthesia, complicated equipment and all. So what evidence do we have, or what references do we have to support or claim that in that time also neurosurgeries were performed, or like brain surgeries were performed on people? Jazakallah.
I think you have put a good point, performing the brain surgeries in those period of time, because in those period of time, try to understand, there were a lot of wars, and people used to come with the skull break and other things. How you are able to understand the Muslim contribution in the brain surgery is that the development of surgical instruments by the Al-Zairawi. If you go through those books, and there are authentic reference material available right now about the brain surgeries. So I can share those articles written by the Muslim doctors and published in the international journals. So that will give lot of evidence to you, and through those papers you can go through and you can understand that. But try to understand that it was not a complicated surgery what we are performing. Maybe गलत हो सकता था, सही हो सकता था, क्या होता, but they used to perform at those period of time. But we don't know how the patient used to survive, or patient has recovered or not. We don't have those evidences. But try from the different types of instrument in developed by those doctors, we are able to do some justice. But there are a lot of research paper published in the international journals and articles. You can give those references, and you can talk about the Muslim scientists, those who have contributed in that field. Hope I answered that question. Any other question?
So one more question.
Yeah.
Sir, you recently mentioned that how important it is for the medical students to take up this legacy and spread the knowledge and awareness among the common people, as medical students know better about the medical field. But nowadays, we get to see that a lot of students who are getting enrolled into medical college, they don't have that zeal, that passion to learn about the medical field or to practice as a good doctor itself. Nevertheless, contributing to the history, being a Muslim doctor, many of them join because of the lavish lifestyle or the money that it earns. So, what is your advice to the currently practicing medical doctors and medical students as to how they can contribute to the present, the modern healthcare system, how they can leave a impact on the healthcare system, and how they can make history in the present times? Jazakallah.
If you don't want to talk about the Muslim contribution, it's okay. That I don't want to be talking about the history. I want to be a good doctor. But three things you should be a good doctor. First, ethical values has to be good enough. You talk about there are a lot of Muslim doctors, those who are ethically good. So ethics is the important. Imana has a, like you have the Socrates oath of medical science. There is a oath by the Imana, Muslim oath of medical doctor. Ethical practice is important. Values is important, and knowing your subject, mastery has to be. तो मेरे वैसा हिंदुस्तान में कोई डॉक्टर नहीं है. That mastery has to be done by. If you do these things, I think you are a good Muslim doctor. That is more than enough than talking about the legacies and others. If you are not interested, but three things: ethics, values, and what you are learning should have a good practice. तो आप अगर हाथ अगर आप कट मारे भी, तो ऐसा रहना कि आपका अगर सर्जरी करते वक्त भी आपकी चाकू पकड़ने की सलाहियत इस तरीके की रहना कि पेशेंट को पता भी नहीं चलना कि आप कट करे बोलते. सो दैट if you are passionate about that, that is more than enough to be a good Muslim doctors. Any other question?
Thank you very much, sir, for sparing your valuable time for this insightful lesson. It has been impactful to learn the rich history of Muslim contribution. Jazakallah khair for everyone for attending this session, and may Allah guide us all on the right path. وصلى الله تعالى وسلم على خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
So we can close down the meeting. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending this. Hoping that you should be one of the great doctors and you should be one of the great role model for the society. Jazakumullah khair.